anything to say about tears?
I love blobby tears.
Well, tears, it's water.
Am I not a bit out of the frame? Okay.
Pretty background.
Yes. Oh, I love the red lights.
All of the details. Wow, I wonder what it is.
So nice, all the patterns.
Oh, it's been a long time since I last saw the film.
Same, I was gonna say that. I don't remember the scene.
She's shaking.
Oh yeah.
She's like, she's so scared. No, Chihiro.
You can see that she's shaky from just a blanket. It's like,
What a mood, actually.
The attention to detail.
yeah. Also, I mean, you don't want to animate breathing all the time, so you just do it when it's important, I guess.
I like her eyes. They're always such cute shapes.
Also, I feel for her, like being in a foreign place, not feeling comfortable and like feeling lonely, even though there's a lot of people around you. I don't know, I feel like that's a feeling that most people know.
Imagine if she was deep asleep and she just did not hear it.
What? You said something?
Why didn't you come to the bridge? It's like, when did you tell me to do that? When you were sleeping.
But like,
Was he even here? We don't know.
damn, those details. They have to animate all the patterns.
No, that's one thing I've noticed.
Also, I love this outfit so much. It's so cool. I don't know why, but like, it's just,
It's iconic.
it is.
Look at those backgrounds. Ghibli movies and backgrounds are just...
So nice. I always like the way that they designed this house because there are so many rooms, but you never feel lost.
Yeah. Whenever I see these movies, I feel like my creativity just does not exist at all.
My babies! That's back!
Oh, I think yes.
The shoes, yeah.
It's very cute when she puts them on. It has this very special moment.
I've never watched a Ghibli movie in Japanese. This is weird.
So kind. They kept them warm.
I've seen this movie like, I don't know, 100 times.
Here, when she does this.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It's very anime, like.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I watched it too, yeah.
I never saw Chihiro as a child, so
I think
I
I've
never had the
only seen it
experience.
as a child.
Those
I
colors are
saw
also
it
so
a few
nice.
years ago for the
The red
first
is
time.
so vibrant.
With the green.
Oh, no face.
Oh, hi, it's this guy.
Oh.
I never realized that he blends into the...
Yeah, he doesn't do it all the time. Sometimes he has like physical feet, sometimes he really like blends in.
I wonder how they did it, because I feel like that was like time-wise, like when they started to use like digital coloring.
But the backgrounds in general are like the most gorgeous thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, Ghibli knows how to do like good backgrounds.
It must take like a shit ton of time to draw them.
And it's all traditionally, right?
Yeah, with like gouache and stuff.
Chihiro was around like early 2000s, 2002 or something. It's one of the new era movies,
That
actually.
was pretty cool with the flowers. I remember seeing this scene. It's like, how did they do it exactly? There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I love
Feels
this.
like
Oh,
they're
I love this
faster
shot.
than they actually are, so it feels like a magic portal.
I wish I knew how to color like they do. It's so pretty.
Do you know how they did it? With like layers or 3D or?
I don't know, probably like an animated like loop on the side and then just a character on top of that, probably.
Oh,
I think that was the terrifying part for me.
yeah.
Parents turning into pigs.
I heard a lot of people found that quite terrifying, which understandable.
Also, God, that's terrifying. As a kid, it's like, that's your parent?
Like when they transformed at first, when I first saw that, when I was like 4 or something, I screamed at my TV and told my mom, turn it off, and then I cried. It was so bad.
The cut of her being like, please don't die, to depression was very funny to me.
Aw. This transition is so nice. From this very dark background to this overly bright green.
Here, have an onigiri.
Has like a really, I don't know, like a certain air to him. And also sort of, I don't know, makes him feel very like calming in a way.
Yeah, I don't know, like wise in a way, but naive in another. It's really, I don't know, it's really good character acting.
But it
And
has
these
so many
scenes.
like details, all of the
Bangs.
yeah.
Also pretty flowers and the beans. God, the backgrounds are just so nice.
His hair is so sharp.
It's true.
It's just like the helmet.
It truly is a helmet.
So romantic.
No, you have to eat
like this in every scene, but this one, like in this one, even if he turns his head, it's like.
I want to try like all of the Ghibli foods, but at the same time I don't want to because I feel like it's gonna ruin like my fantasy of what they taste like.
Animated food always just looks better than it tastes. Or like drawn food in general.
Yeah.
God, do you know how hard it is to eat rice when you're crying?
And
It gets stuck here and you just choke and die.
The thick tears. Yeah. This is such a mood.
I get that. Oh, the tears are so like thick and voluminous. And,
Biting into something so good and then remembering how your life is terrible and then just like.
It's also so like comforting and relatable, just her crying while she's eating.
It's like, don't be sad, just eat more. Just eat.
That's it?
Okay, this was a scene from the 2001 Ghibli movie Spirited Away. It is directed by Hayao Miyazaki and has won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature,
As it deserves.
which is to date the only ever awarded hand-drawn and non-English film to get this award.
Yeah, that's why they call it the Disney Pixar Award, because they always give it to Disney and Pixar movies. I just like the patterns moving. Even her breathing, this has to be animated.
She's like trembling, so all of her flowers are slightly moving too.
Clothes just look so nice in Ghibli movies.
Yeah, that
Also, isn't that the exact same cloth as in Grave of the Firefly?
It is!
No!
I think it is!
Maybe that's where they ended up. Maybe they just went to the spirit world.
Oh no, that makes it even more sad.
You see this and you're like, yeah, that's normal. When you walk, that's what weight does. It shifts the pattern. You don't really consider that somebody had to think of how the pattern moves.
So impressive how they animated all of the like folds and the like patterns.
Animating small movements, it's so much harder than just having.
The thing is, if it's cartoon, you're like, okay, first line here, second line here, that works. If you want subtle movement, you need to do first line here, second line here. Because if you look at that hair, it is hardly a change, but it's already a movement.
I think Ghibli is interesting because you have some scenes that are so elaborately animated, and then you have other ones that just, they let it rest and be quiet.
When you have grand movements, of course it needs to look good, but if you have movement that is very, very subtle and stays in one place, you have to be so much more accurate. And I think that's one of the like really strengths
that
Ghibli
they do
has.
very well, yes.
That's a really nice still frame too. And so much storytelling. You have the laundry everywhere.
That's something I love so much about Ghibli movies, like that I feel like so lived in all of the environments and the characters seem so real because of like the tiny details.
Miyazaki's philosophy was kind of let the animation breathe, and I think that's also why many of the Ghibli movies feel so like nostalgic in a way. The basic concept of it is this thing of space, right? And I think that's something that you kind of see in more Western animation, that they pack every frame with like this action.
There's all of these little moments of Ma. It adds so much and it's so nice to watch. Ma is like a moment in film or storytelling where there's like calm, where no actual action happens that furthers the plot in any way. Miyazaki once described it as the silence between two claps. And it just gives the characters room to breathe, like outside of the plot, and to like develop their character as like fully rounded personalities.
Because in Western movies, it's like, if it doesn't benefit the plot, if it doesn't do anything to get us to the end of the movie, we don't put it in. And it's so sad.
Here, the one with the shoes is also very nice. The way she puts on her shoes is like, here she does that tap.
Like she probably does this every time she puts on her shoes.
I like geek out about this moment with her tapping her shoe because it's such a nice detail that makes the character so much more human. Like she doesn't just put on her shoe and leave. She does what actual people in real life do. It's so easy not to think about those things. For Miyazaki, it's like such an important detail because for him that is what makes like the characters most human.
And I think a lot of people would like to do it, but sometimes you have a shot and you know it can only be 7 seconds. And you don't have time for that. And I really like how Miyazaki just paces it out so he makes time for those moments.
The little soots are really cute too. Technically, they could have just made one drawing, moved it around a little bit and be like, yeah, there you go. Knowing Hayao, they would have drawn every little soot one after the other. It's like, we need to do things by hand traditionally. I will not accept any shortcuts ever.
They just appear in like one frame. Usually when you blink, you usually have one where, like if the eye is open, then you have one where the eye is kind of closing and then it's closed. And here just pop, Adorable. I like the sound effect for them too. It's really cute.
I really like the design of the bathhouse, just a beautiful building.
What I still haven't quite figured out how you handle transparency when something is moving.
Keeping it consistent
Yes.
on every single frame and not have it wobble.
Well, the part that's transparent here, he's not moving.
I mean, I guess today it's quite easy. You just kind of have your color layer and then you kind of
You layer
make
them.
it transparent.
If he would be moving nowadays, he would probably do it with a vector, but
A
because
gradient
you have
shape.
to animate stuff frame by frame, you can't do that with a gradient that you painted.
I like the way they animated his hair.
This, how the fuck? I feel like this is one layer and then there's this layer on top, but I really wonder how they did it.
I think it's probably paintings that are layered over each other, but because they're so cluttered,
It
it's
feels
3D.
very three-dimensional.
Yes.
It's nice how like it does a curve still. Like it doesn't just go straight back in like all curves.
There's this motion of going here to down,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like, woo. I don't know, it's just really beautiful and it's a great effect. Because you can tell they're like still images, but the way they move looks very 3D.
And it also helps that they're shaded quite
Photorealistically, yeah.
realistically.
And also I think it's animated on ones and Chihiro's movement is not.
They actually move their jaws.
Yeah, that's
it-
what I noticed too.
Yeah.
But the rest is still just lip flaps.
yeah.
In a lot of Asian animation, it's just mouth moving, but the rest of the face doesn't move at all or isn't influenced by the talking. You need some kind of budget first to do the jaw moving.
Although it is still open mouth, closed mouth, but at least they have the jaw move and that seems more natural.
I love the body language here. This bowl.
She's a bean. And then he goes down to her level. He goes down when it becomes more personal.
And a typical thing of Ghibli movies is you have, for the most part, it's always male and female. And that usually is the recipe for people, especially in the West, to be like, oh, kiss? Miyazaki himself says like, I do not believe that just because a man and a woman or a girl and a boy are on screen, they must share romance. And it's like, thank you, Lord. I love Ghibli relationships because it's just people supporting each other.
Oh my god, wait. When he moves his head here. It's just...
No overlapping action.
This fucking helmet. Look at him. So strange.
His hair is also like.
It is a helmet.
Maybe he's bald.
I can't unsee it now. Why?
Why would you point that out?
I hate you.
You would kind of have this drag because you have kind of the center point here and then everything would move accordingly.
Her hair too.
Oh, that's true.
Her ponytail is really static. Where she turns her head, it's just
There's no follow through.
Yeah, but it's also a nice contrast between these two characters, right? They're completely polar opposites, in the shapes. So his shapes are all like this, right? Like straight lines, and hers is like...
And she's very organic.
Their character design is not overly complicated. They're mainly recognized through their hair. Chihiro has the spiky fringe and the two things, and Haku has the impeccable clean bob. They're very simplified character designs. They don't have crazy colors or
Yeah,
crazy
true.
hairstyles.
I love how her
the eye
nose moves with her face when she's eating.
Do you have anything to say about tears?
I love blobby tears.
well, tears, it's water.
I think as soon as she starts to tear up, they have this like overlay on her eyes.
These are obviously very exaggerated because it looks like they're almost gelatinous. Look at the sheer size of those tears.
It gives me more a feeling of frustration and not sadness.
It's the same animation. It's just going down and then just up again and down again. But it works. Why reanimate the same shoulder movement 3 times if you can just have it replay a couple of times?
Great movie.
Great movie.
Great
Go
classic.
Watch it. Go watch it.
Beautiful. I love it. Yes, Miyazaki-san. You're like my biggest inspiration. It's a great movie. Thank you so much for making it. Yes.
Yes, beautiful.
For reacting.
No worries.